I sail. I'm a sailor. I sail. Isn't this a breakthrough? I mean, that I'm a sailor? I sail. I sail now?
Keep sailing, Bob.
Out on a boat on the lake, way far away from the dock.
Hi there, and welcome to Baseball by Design. I am SportsLogos.net minor league baseball correspondent Paul Caputo, broadcasting live, as always, from the Sunday Helmet Hall of Fame in my basement in Fort Collins, Colorado. This week, we're going to be talking about the independent professional Lake Country DockHounds who play in the MLB Partner League American Association. They are based in Wisconsin. Later on in this episode, I'll be speaking with designer Mike Magestro. I'll be speaking with Baseball by Design's wildlife correspondent Ranger Amy Burnett. And of course, Dan Simon will be here with one of his studio Simon Stumpers. Right now, I am so happy to have on the Baseball by Design podcast Dominic Stern, who is the broadcaster for the Lake Country DockHounds, and Brian Giese, who is the director of marketing and communications. Dominic and Brian, how are you guys doing? Good morning.
Doing well. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
We're doing well, Paul. Thanks for having us on.
All right. So that was Brian, who you heard first, and then Dominic. I like to jump in with a really basic question, just in terms of sort of what this brand is and what it means to the local community. Brian, I'm going to start with you here. What is a dockhound?
Yeah. The Lake Country DockHounds we're located within Lake Country. Technically, we're in the city of Oconomowoc. But we encompass all things Lake Country. So the DockHounds themselves, we like to say that we're fun, energetic, and yet the community is also very laid back. We spend a lot of time on lakes and rivers, and so we like to build our brand around that. You know, I don't know. There's nothing that screams summer more than baseball, dogs, family, and being at the ballpark.
Let's talk about Lake Country. And Brian, I'll stick with you on this one since I asked you about the DockHounds. Is Lake Country an official designation, or is that sort of a euphemistic way of describing the area?
No, that's definitely just describing the area. You know, some people say that it's an area of lakes that are essentially from I-94 north in Waukesha County. And then there's others that say that it's pretty much all of Waukesha County. We've tried to come up with a list of lakes within the Lake Country area. And depending on who we talk to, some say it's 8, some say it's 12, some say it's 28. It's definitely a feeling and a non-defined area.
All right. Dominic, you are wearing a cap right now that has the DockHound himself, and I'm guessing from the fact that it says Louis on his bat in the actual logo that his name is Louis. What can you tell me about this DockHound character, who I assume is named Louis?
Yeah, his name is Louis. He's our favorite boy in the whole wide world, and he does a great job entertaining our crowd. He's got the cap with a bobber on it, so you know, in case he does get a little submerged in the water, you can still see that. And he just really tries to represent the life of being in Lake Country, of having a huge smile, and he's always walking around super calmly and a ton of energy.
At the ballpark, do you have, I assume there's a mascot character, but is there also like a real four-legged furry friend dog?
Well, so that's what's neat about us, is we do have a walking mascot, Louis, but we have our 2 bat dogs, Colt and Kovu, who they're not here for the entire games and they're not here for the entire schedule at Wisconsin Brewing Company Park, but they certainly add to the entertainment at our games, and they go and retrieve our DockHounds players' bats after they put the ball in play. And the fans, sometimes they like that more than what's on the field, but it just adds to the overall entertainment value at our DockHounds games.
Brian, can you tell me what the process of settling on this name was? What were the contenders? Was there a name the team contest? Was there an origin story for the folks who came up with the DockHounds name?
Yeah, so we did run a contest before our first season as to naming the team. We had hundreds of submissions. I think it was close to 350 submissions that we received. of varying degrees, right? Like, I mean, they were all over the board. And what it was internally, we started whittling things down. We looked at it from a trademarking standpoint to begin with, what was available, things like the Lakers, right? Makes it really tough to try and kind of trademark that. So that helped to kind of whittle things down. But then at the end of the day, we still really wanted something that was fun, something that we could create a mascot around, but yet also still create a brand around, right? So it was kind of twofold that way. And there was a little boy in the neighborhood in the community that submitted Doc Dogs, was the original kind of name, and we liked it. But also, again, when it went back to the trademarking side of things, made it a little bit more difficult. And so we went to him and said, "Hey, what would you think about DockHounds?" He was ecstatic about it. So we ended up going with DockHounds out of that.
When you have as much baseball as exists in Wisconsin, and I'm looking at the map here from our friends at baseballmapper.com. You're in the American Association. You also have the Milwaukee Milkmen. Obviously, you've got the Milwaukee Brewers in Major League Baseball, and then there's a whole bunch of collegiate summer ball in the North Woods League. How do you, as a brand, sort of stand out among all of those teams in that, not the biggest state in the nation necessarily?
Sure. Yeah. No, we definitely highlight the fun and entertainment side of things. I always like to say, I mean, we're a stone's throw away from hitting another baseball organization. And we all can sell baseball, right? If you're a baseball fan, we have a product for you. And so therefore our brand goes above and beyond that and looks to the fun and the entertainment side of things. So, Andy Briscala, our entertainment and production director, does a great job of entertaining our fans in between literally every half inning. So we're constant entertainment from start to finish. It's always interesting because I think a lot of teams, or a lot of fans come to us and are like, "Oh, could you guys do more things like the Bananas?" And I said, "Have you been to one of our games yet?" Because the Savannah Bananas obviously is all entertainment, right? I said, "Have you been to one of our games?" "No, not yet." "Well, you should come because we are the epitome of entertainment from start to finish as well."
Yeah, my explaining of it to fans and potential people who could come to our games is that it's the most intimate baseball experience you could have professionally. Because our ballpark, it's not big, but it's brand new, it's very well maintained, and you get to be right up on the action. You get to see guys who either made it to the major leagues or are just getting their professional career started or are trying to get that, spark to reignite the flame to their professional career and be a major leaguer. So there's no more intimate experience in DockHounds baseball.
I grew up on the East Coast, and so our sort of recreation culture was the beach, was the ocean. I live in Colorado now. The recreation culture here is largely the mountains. I mean, we have small lakes and we have rivers and that sort of thing, but it's largely the mountains. I haven't spent a lot of time in places where the lake is sort of the centerpiece of the recreation culture. So I'm looking at the things that are, on the logo here. Obviously, he's got the bucket hat with the fishing lure. He's got some more fishing gear on his collar there. He's, standing on the dock. I'm curious just from you all, just to understand what this name is all about. When you go to the lake in the summertime, what is the perfect lake day? What are you doing to recreate at the lake?
Well, I think you got to have a couple of drinks.
It's
We are
fair.
lucky that we have a brewery here, so maybe bring some walk-off lagers or some other Lake Louis Brewing Company drinks. You got to have a group of buddies to go on a boat, and then you got to have maybe some wakeboarding or some some like casting nets you can just go lay in the water and you don't have to worry about anything. But it's just meant to be nice and relaxing. You get to see other people going by on their boats and you get to have some fun and jokes with them. And that's what it's all about.
I think being on the lake, I think it's twofold, right? So it's the thrill and the excitement of things that you can do, whether that's wakeboarding, whether it's jet skiing, whether it's skiing, those kinds of things. And then it's also the laid back side of things. So I think, when it comes to our brand, we kind of try to tie into both of those. And I think baseball fits really well with that thrills and excitement, as well as the laid back and relaxed.
Dominic, I want to follow up on something that I think I heard you say. You said a walk-off logger from, did you say Lake Louie? Is there a lake named for the dog?
No, Lake Louie is not an actual lake.
Okay.
Lake Louie Brewing Company is what the company is that makes the beers here.
Okay, so the name of the brewing company that makes the beers at Wisconsin Brewing Company Park is Lake Louie Brewing Company, and the name of the mascot in the logo for the Lake Country DockHounds is Louie.
Correct.
I believe I got
Yes.
that all straight now.
Yeah. Yeah. So Wisconsin Brewing Company is kind of the overarching parent company.
Yeah.
They do their own beers, they do their own brews, and then they also do packaged goods as well for other brewers. And then Lake Louie Brewing is their consumer-facing product, their consumer-facing brand. And so we're lucky enough to be one of 3 stadiums in the state that have a brewery located directly inside of it. So we have a 5-barrel system that Lake Louie Brewing is able to go through and create various new kind of innovative beers for us. So just about every homestand, we say anywhere between 8 and 10 times a year, we'll release a brand new beer to the public from Lake Louie Brewing at our baseball games.
I'm super intrigued by when I was reading about the team, before we were chatting, I was super intrigued by the fact that the original vision for this team was that it was going to be a member of the Collegiate Summer Northwoods League. And then due to complications surrounding COVID, the team actually had a little more time to sort of research some options and ended up in the Professional American Association. Can you tell me sort of what the thinking was there and how that ended up that the Lake Country DockHounds ended up in the American Association instead of the Northwoods League?
Well,
Uh,
neither of us were here for that, but there are certainly some aspects of the park that you can see why it was designed to be a Northwoods team. So the dimensions are quite hitter friendly. It's 372 feet to straightaway center field, and then only 320 feet down the lines, both to right and left field. And then the clubhouses are very team. It's intimate. That's the word that I'll keep going back to. They're tighter quarters than they are a little bit around the rest of the league. But I think the fact that it ended up working out for us to be in the American Association is even better. The fans here in Lake Country get a professional experience.
Who's your biggest rival?
The Milkmen, without a doubt. I mean, the fact that they're within a 45-minute drive, depending on the day, and they're within the southeastern Wisconsin quarters, it makes for a good rivalry. The two sides, they don't seem to get along on the field, no matter who is wearing the blue for us or the white and black for them. And it makes for a really entertaining series. And what's really neat is that their fans will come here and our fans will go there. So it's a good rivalry, and it definitely brings the best out of the American Association.
Well, this is such a fun brand, and I'm so glad to have finally gotten the opportunity to talk to you guys and feature the DockHounds on the podcast. Where can folks follow you individually on social media, online, and where can people find the team?
Yeah, so the team is on Facebook. We're on Instagram, X, TikTok, YouTube. You can follow us on all those major channels. DockHounds.com. I'm on Instagram, Brian Geezy on Instagram, or LinkedIn or Twitter.
I always plug my X or my Twitter, DM Stern19. That's where I throw most of my broadcasting opportunities.
Okay, well, we'll put those in the show notes. And in the meantime, yeah, have a great off season, guys. And thanks so much for hopping on and talking about the DockHounds.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Paul.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
All right, everyone, welcome back. I am so pleased to have on the Baseball by Design podcast for the very first time designer Mike Magestro, who is the founder, creative director, the brains behind Mind Spike Design. Mike, good morning. How you doing?
Morning, Paul. Doing well, thank you.
It is certainly a pleasure to speak with you about this brand. I really enjoyed seeing it when it was unveiled. When you were charged with this task of coming up with this DockHound logo for the Lake Country DockHounds, what were your considerations? What was your approach? how did you how did you get rolling on this project?
Well, I think first the team came to me and they had a naming contest and they ended up on the name DockHounds. My first task was to determine exactly what that meant.
Mhm.
And obviously, being from the area, knowing Oconomowoc and Lake Country and all the lakes and the docks and all the dogs on the docks, it was kind of um, it kind of worked out well of what the direction needed to be for this logo. So my task was then to how to incorporate, how to represent exactly what that meant in a logo. With the dog creating the character, what does the character have? What is he holding? And how do we develop Louis, who is the character, into something that they can use on, a lot of merchandise and marketing materials.
First of all, I have not tried this yet. I'm going to try to pronounce Oconomowoc. How did I do?
You did great.
All right. I've heard it a couple of times on this episode already, but I hadn't actually given it a try. You mentioned, it's funny, you mentioned the dogs on the docks. Is that a thing? Are there like a bunch of dogs, that just sort of hang around on the docks there, or are they there with their owners? Like who are the dogs on the docks?
Yeah, I go kayaking a lot on the lakes out in the Oconomowoc, and it's a common scene to go by somebody's dock and see their dogs just sitting out there. So whether the owner's out there, whether the dogs are just out there having fun in the water, it's a pretty common thing. So if a lot of those people out on the lake have a dog, it's usually found on the dock.
You do a lot of work outside the realm of minor league baseball. This is not your area of specialization specifically. You have a lot of clients who are outside the sports industry. Is your approach different when a baseball team comes to you than perhaps any of your other design clients or your illustration clients?
The approach is very similar. I take a look at the demographic and the audience that the logo is for, and that's one thing I pride myself on, is being able to design for all the different industries and demographics of people. So taking a look at more of a sports logo, obviously it's a little different approach. It would be a different illustration approach. Who are we appealing to? What age group? Sports fans? It's pretty much the same approach I take with any logo in any industry. This one was definitely a lot more fun because we had to get a lot of stuff in there, and so um, how do you accomplish that, and the approach you take to do that to make sure it represents the Lake Country DockHounds the best it can.
You mentioned there's a lot of stuff in there. This character is fully fleshed out, as I guess it's an anthropomorphic dog, right? Like he's still very dog featured, and the paws are paws, not hands. But he's sort of in a human stance. He's got the bat sort of behind his neck, and he's holding it like the way you might see a baseball player, getting warmed up. But he's got sunglasses. He's got the baseball in his mouth. He's got the fishing cap with the lure on it. He's got a collar with and I don't know the fishing term for that. The bob, I guess.
The bobber.
The
Yeah.
bobber. All right. And then you have the dock, and you've got the baseball coming out of the splashing out of the water in front of it's standing in for the letter O in DockHounds. So there's a fair amount going on in this logo. How much of that was, as you were developing this character, you were sort of adding things to create the effect, and how much of it was the team saying, okay, the logo has to have these things in it?
Oh, there was definitely a good combination of both happening in our initial sketching phases. It was quite different. Louis, the dog, originally was holding an oar. And in some cases, his arms were crossed. Is he wearing glasses? Are the glasses pushed down? He had a baseball cap on in one rendition. So a lot of it's working with the team and deciding on where do we want to land on this? And we eventually landed that he's going to be having a bat. He's going to be wearing a fishing hat. Let's put the ball in his mouth. How far in his mouth is it going? And so there's a lot of factors that went into just capturing Louis, because the original sketches included, a little bit more like introduce fishing rods, a lot of the tree scenery that you see around the lakes. Ended up determining that a lot of that wasn't needed. And just with those little hints of obviously the dock and the water and the bobber and the lure and the hatch just kind of captured what needed to.
This logo, one of the things I think it accomplishes it so well is sort of precisely what we're talking about there, is that it establishes sort of a sense of place, a feeling of summertime. I get a sense that, lake recreation culture has a very specific sort of feeling about it. You mentioned that you like to go kayaking. What is that culture to you? What is lake country culture?
Well, that's a good question. To me, it's just a time to relax. So when you go out to Lake Country, whether people are going to their cottages or cabins just for the weekend or for the week, it's just a time to just enjoy that, enjoy the scenery, enjoy the lake, and forget about everything else.
Nice. One of the things I noticed, like looking at the color palette here, royal blue, sky blue, white, there's a little bit of red and sort of, as a highlight color for like in the baseball and the bobber there. But in general, this is not a ferocious animal. And the color palette, the cool colors, it's not as in your face as sports branding, has been in the past. What was that, that you were trying to create with this sports brand?
With creating Louis as a character, it was important that, we looked at, the demographic and the people going to the games. Lake Country is a big family area. Knowing that there's a lot of kids there, knowing that, Louis will eventually be a mascot. We want to create something that's obviously not menacing and more represents just that lake feel, more approachable, more friendly, being more inviting was kind of the goal. So we didn't want to create a scary dog type of thing because that's not what you see on the lake. It's calm, it's peaceful, and we needed that logo to reflect that.
Have you been to a DockHounds game since they started up?
I have,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah,
What's
we've
your
actually worked on a few other logos for their team as well. They had an April Fool's weekend where they changed their name and logo to the Flying Monkeys. So we created that brand for them as well. It's a nice organization to work with. It's great.
So when you go to a baseball game, when you go to a DockHounds game, and they're wearing the brand that you created, how long are you sitting there watching that game before you can actually get past that fact that that's your work out there on a baseball field and people are wearing on their t-shirts and on their caps and that sort of thing? Do you ever sort of forget that for a moment, or is that with you the entire time you're at the game?
So when I see that, the initial phase when they first launched, it was great. Everybody is wearing it. You get to see, what the team's marketing team is doing and with the logo and everything. And it's nice to see. But it doesn't take me long to get past that, to know you did a nice logo for a great organization and people are enjoying it. That's all I care about. And it is nice to see everybody wearing it, but I can look past that and enjoy the game pretty quickly.
Now, when you're enjoying the game, what's your go-to concession? What do you have at the ballpark?
Oh, you got to have a brat. I mean, that's a Milwaukee, it's a Wisconsin thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been to games in Beloit and I've been to a Brewers game and yes, on both occasions I got the brat that because that is the law. So
Yeah.
one of the things that I think makes this brand sort of stand out, as we've sort of talked about, is, you don't do a ton of work necessarily in sports logos design. This brand is created by your firm, which is not one of the big firms, the more prolific firms that you see out there creating sports brands. And so with that, it's sort of a distinctive illustrative style. Can you comment on the illustrative approach that you took to this?
Yes, when we first started this logo and we started with sketches, we took the illustration process as far as we went, and I wanted that specific illustration to reflect that sports illustration that's kind of out there in a lot of logos. And because I want to make this logo the best it can be, I brought in a friend of mine, Mike Casson, who's a great illustrator, who's also worked on a lot of sports logos in the past, to put the polishing touches on the logo. And he did a great job to get it to where I needed it to be as far as having that specific style for this logo. So I make sure when we do a design that we deliver the best we can. And if there's something outside of my scope, and I work with Mike all the time, he's worked with me on many projects and illustrations. I knew that he did a lot of sports logos and he had the look I wanted, and that's why I pulled him in.
You know, I'm always fascinated by design projects that are collaborative because I know that it can be easy to sort of take ownership and feel protective almost of the work that you do. So it's speaks highly of your character, I think, that you have the ability to to recognize like, okay, I'm gonna bring in some help on this thing that is not necessarily my area of specialization. So
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that. It definitely is important to make sure that you deliver exactly what you're looking for. And if it's something that it's not in the wheelhouse, you know, we work with people that offer different talents, and it's important to deliver that to the client. So this particular logo, he put on a great finishing touches to the illustration. We handed over the illustration that we did, and he cleaned it up for us, got it to where I wanted it, and it was perfect.
So do you envision any future sports work? Do you have any now that you've got this one in your back pocket, people are seeing it, do you think you'll have any other projects down the line?
You know, we'll see. I mean, the funny thing is I do a lot of beer can designs for a place called Broken Bat that does all beer labels for baseball, and that's great.
You know, if I ever do a new podcast, it's going to be about beer labels because just the task of creating a beer label that stands out from the many other beer labels that are out there, right? Like that is how much do you focus on standing out and how much do you focus on like representing the product? And that is a whole design challenge in and of itself. So that is, I can't imagine, how difficult that work must be.
Well, you nailed it. It is tough. You go to the shelves and you see just too much to look at. So a lot of times it's simplifying it and breaking through the clutter is what you need to do.
Well, Mike, that is very cool. I really appreciate your insights and you hopping on. Where can people find you on social media and online? Where can people find the work that you're doing?
Well, right now we're on our website is mindspikedesign.com. We're in the process of refreshing that website. Your work is always the last work. So
yeah,
we'll get to it eventually. But we're on social media on Facebook and Mindspike Design, and Instagram as well.
Okay, well, that'll be in the show notes. And Mike, thank you so much. I appreciate the time and best of luck with those beer labels.
Thanks, Paul. Talk to you soon.
Baseball by Design listeners worldwide, it is my honor to introduce to you the official Baseball by Design wildlife correspondent, musical enthusiast, and national anthem extraordinaire, Ranger Amy Burnett.
Once again, that intro for Ranger Amy, wildlife correspondent Ranger Amy, is courtesy of Pat Larson of the Minor League Baseball Hat History Series. Ranger Amy, hello, how are you?
Hello. Thanks, Pat.
Hey, wildlife correspondent Ranger Amy, you are typically, we're talking about wildlife that you would find in the wild. That's the nature of wildlife, I guess. We're here talking about the Lake Country DockHounds. Now, for a domesticated animal, I don't know that I necessarily normally would have brought you in here, but you happen to be the doggiest of dog people. I don't know there's anyone in the world who loves dogs more than you do.
I don't think there is either. I love dogs more than life itself, almost.
You spend a lot of your time volunteering at a rescue shelter where you just go to walk dogs because you love being around dogs.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah, but I mean, don't a lot of people do that?
I don't know.
It's fun. I like walking dogs.
This is not a walking dog. This is a fishing dog.
This is not a fishing dog.
Oh.
It's
Well-
a diving dog.
Oh.
Dock diving, Paul.
So what does that tell me what that means? Like what do
Get
you
with the times, Paul.
when you say this is a diving dog, what does that mean?
There's a whole thing called dock diving that dogs do. There's a whole competition. There's a whole culture of people who just dive off docks with their dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. But mostly like golden retrievers and German Shepherd, Malinois, like the big athletic dogs, sometimes border collies. Not usually hounds, but hounds can be like a generic dog name. Like, call off the hounds.
Release the hounds?
Release the hounds. Thank you for correcting me.
Call off the hounds is not one you hear as much, I don't think. This guy here is, yeah. So the name of the team is Hounds, DockHounds, of course. Is he a hound? What's a distinguishing characteristic of a hound?
Usually a hound is a scent dog, like
Oh.
a basset hound, right?
Uh-huh.
Or a bloodhound. They sniff the ground and they're gonna smell out their prey, and then once they find it, like if they're attracting bear or something like that, but they're using their nose more than anything. They're not known for their athleticism.
If you were to look at this dog without knowing what the name of the team was,
Like this hound, he's got like a muscular chest, and basset hounds and other types of hounds, they're not usually known for like being buff and in shape dogs.
like looking at his face though, like he looks like a lab to me.
Yeah, he looks kind of like he looks like a lab face or a golden retriever face.
Okay, a
Not
little
like
hard
a
to tell.
hound. And hounds are like, bow! They howl.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about dogs as baseball players here, right? There's a lot of different kinds of dogs. So we're going to focus, I think, on this particular style of dog. He just looks like generic dog to me, right? Like this is like a
Yeah.
medium-sized dog. You'd find him at the pound, the
Oh,
rescue.
I'm
And
gonna
you,
take him home.
I know you want this dog. This dog looks pretty well taken care of. He's got a collar. He's got sunglasses. He's wearing a number 5 jersey.
He's got a bobber attached to his collar, so if you go in
Yeah.
the water, he'll float.
You don't see a lot of like strays wearing fishing caps and
In
sunglasses.
sunglasses. No,
Yeah.
I think he's a pretty cush dog.
Yeah.
I say he's a dock diving dog. And so they are that's sort of like a new sport that people do with their dogs that have like disposable income. They just want to see their dogs dive off a dock, and like their competitions.
Are they trying to catch something underwater, or is it just like diving for style, like in the
It's-
Olympics?
It's 3 things. It's speed, height, and distance.
Huh.
So they actually are judged on their 3 different categories and then 3 different competitions. And so they'll actually throw something out in the water for the dog to retrieve, and they
Mhm.
try to get them to go to have the furthest jump, farthest jump, or the highest jump, or the fastest to 37 feet. There's like 20 pages of rules about dock diving. One thing is you can't throw a dead animal out in the water and have them chase it. It has to be like a face on. I liked that they needed to put that in the rules. It kind of amused me a little bit. But yeah, people are serious about these dock diving things, and they sound like a lot of fun. I wouldn't mind watching a dock diving competition.
This guy is named Louis because of Louisville Slugger. And of course it says Louis right there on the bat.
What's his full name?
Honestly, I thought his full name was just Louis.
No.
You have other information.
I do. His full name is Louis B, like with a dot after it. Louis B. Sluggin.
Louis B. Sluggin. That's like IP freely.
What? I
Yeah.
thought you said that we couldn't.
That's a Simpsons joke. That's allowed.
Okay.
And because I can't see a cartoon dog in sunglasses without thinking of Poochie from The Simpsons, maybe that's why I'm predisposed to making that reference.
Aw.
Hey, let's talk about dogs in general. Maybe this kind of dog, let's say a lab, a retriever, a medium-sized dog.
Yeah.
Why do you want one of these on your baseball team? I mean, he's got a bat and a jersey, and so he's ready to go.
They can throw, they can catch, they're all around. I mean, just dogs and baseball go hand in hand. And you gotta love the bat dog when you go to a game. I love it.
Is there anything better than like a bat dog
There
at a
is
game?
nothing better than a bat dog. I
Yeah.
could just watch the bat dog the whole time.
We have an episode on the Trenton Thunder coming up in the not too distant future,
Yep.
and they have the Trenton Goldens as one of their,
Oh,
because they were among the OGs of Bat Dogs, the
that
Trenton
is
Thunder.
so cool.
So we'll be talking about that more in a future episode.
I think dogs are just known to be dogged, right? That's where we get that adjective from. They're determined. They will keep at something. So they may not be the fastest, but they could be the most persistent.
Mm-hmm.
They're dedicated. They're a team player because dogs work in packs.
Mm-hmm.
So by nature, they're good on a team. You have to be a team player to be on a baseball team. So I don't know any other animal that really depicts team camaraderie more than a dog, really.
Okay. Last question for you, then we'll get you out of here. Is there a particular breed or style of dog that you would like to make a team out of?
Ooh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's actually probably like the top 3 famous diving dog breed is the Border Collie. So that would be a good one to have as a mascot. Now, Aussies are my favorite.
Yeah.
Rescued Aussies are my favorite, but Border Collies are a close second.
Okay.
And they're the ones that have the speed and the jumping, and they're just sort of made for this.
I said it was the last question, but it's not the last question. We're going to have a moment for a little PSA here.
Yeah.
Why, if you want to get a dog, should you go to a shelter rather than a breeder?
There are so many dogs in the shelters, and so many, like any kind of breed you can imagine is in a shelter somewhere in the country. And there's so many people that are willing to transport dogs nowadays that you could actually adopt a dog and have it transported to you from a shelter and save a life cheaper than you could find a purebred dog and buy it. And shelter dogs, I swear, are the healthiest dogs. Mutts tend to be, based on my experience, healthier than purebred dogs. They seem not to have as many like problems from inbreeding. And that shelter dog's going to have all of its shots and be already spayed and neutered.
Those dogs need homes.
They really do.
Yeah.
Save a life, adopt a dog.
There you go. Ranger Amy, we can find you on all of the relevant social medias that there are, including Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all that matters
Come find
anymore.
me.
Thank you, Ranger Amy.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, everyone, welcome back. Very pleased to welcome back to the podcast, as always, my very good friend, Dan Simon of Studio Simon, who joins us every week with a trivia question that we call Studio Simon Stumper. Dan, good morning. Hello. How are you?
Good morning to you, Paul. I am fantastic. Thank you for asking. How are you on this fine morning?
I'm doing very well. We're deep into the holiday season, just enjoying the cold weather here in Colorado now. You got to embrace it or else it'll get you.
Yeah, we had some very cold weather, but then this weekend we had a little bit of a warm spell, and we're at that time of the year where it's kind of Jekyll and Hyde weather around here.
Well, speaking of warm spells, Dan, I am going to try to start another hot streak in the Studio Simon Stumpers, coming off a loss last week. But I'm trying to start up a new hot streak here. So let's talk about the Lake Country DockHounds. What do you got for us this week?
Okay, well, a recent Stumper recording, we were talking about fish and fish as a common theme for minor league brand identities. And I think we would be in agreement, or will be in agreement, that dogs and cats and things like that are also fairly common themes for minor league identities. And so, with that in mind, our Studio Simon Stumper today asks, how many current affiliated minor league baseball clubs, I should point out, the Lake Country DockHounds are not an affiliated team, but just to keep the teams you've got to think about to not getting out of hand number. Okay. We're going to just talk about the affiliated minor leagues, which of course include 120 clubs, which is still a lot to think about, but it at least gives you a more finite number there. So to repeat, Our studio Simon Stumper today asks, how many current affiliated minor league baseball clubs have dog family themed brand identity? Now, I need to note something here.
Okay.
When I say dog family themed, the team either has a dog related term in the name and or features a dog prominently in their visual brand identity. Okay,
Right.
so the numbers here are 3,
No.
5,
No.
or 8.
I'm leaning towards 8. I haven't started thinking of the actual teams. Obviously, the Portland Sea Dogs are a harbor seal. They don't count. By the way, I cannot think about minor league baseball dog-based logos and nicknames without thinking of Poochie from The Simpsons. There was a character who was on the TV show within the TV show, the Itchy and Scratchy show, and Itchy and Scratchy brought in Poochie, the dog, who is this sort of cool guy. He looks like the Beach Dogs, alternate identity for my Clearwater Threshers. So I'm stalling here, Dan, because I'm actually having trouble like conjuring actual dog themed logos, and I know there's a bajillion of them. I'm thinking of teams. I'm coming up with a handful of teams who either aren't affiliated anymore, like the Batavia Muck Dogs. The Jackson Generals had that great sort of bulldog logo that you created. They're not around anymore. I'm thinking of a lot of alternate identities that have dog themes in them. So my initial thought was there's a bunch of them, right? Like I thought there must be a ton of dog themed minor league baseball logos, either team names or logos that feature them. And I'm having trouble conjuring.
Well, maybe there's a reason you're having trouble conjuring.
Dan, 3 final answer. I'm having trouble coming up with hardly any of them.
I was hoping that my statement right there would lead you to the correct answer, and I feel bad because I think by saying that you went too far in that
Oh, I
direction.
see. It should have been 5. Well, I'm still,
What were the-
I
How
realize
many
now
did
from
you come up with?
well, I didn't come up with any current
Not counting the
affiliated
2
ones.
you mentioned that are no longer an affiliated. Did you mention even one of the existing ones?
I don't think I did.
Oh, okay. So, wow. Okay, then that explains your answer 3. The correct answer is 5. And I was surprised as well that there's that few
Right.
number of teams, because you would think there's dogs all over the place. Now, remember also there are independent and collegiate summer league teams that
Right.
I'm
I feel like I was coming up with a lot of them.
Now, had this been 4 years ago, there would have been 8, because you mentioned clubs that are no longer in affiliated baseball. You mentioned the Batavia Muck Dogs and the Jackson Generals. Those were 2. A third one is,
I did come up with one. I came up with one. Your Charleston River Dogs.
right.
So I got one.
That's one of the 5.
El Paso Chihuahuas.
That's 2.
Yeah.
And by the way, one of the ones that lost their team, the Mahoning Valley Scrappers as well.
Oh, the Scrappers. Yeah.
Those are 3. Okay, so you just said the Charleston River Dogs and the El Paso Chihuahuas, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now let me give you some hints here. One of them has a very strong connection to the team in today's podcast. Say the name of this podcast's team.
Oh, the DockHounds. The Rockhounds.
Yes, the Twin Rockhounds. Okay.
See,
Okay,
I just need to not put so much pressure on myself.
Okay, here's another one. Let's see if this hint gives you enough of a hint. This is a team that does not have a dog-themed name, but features prominently a dog.
Like Seawolves? Are you counting like the Seawolves as a dog theme name?
I am, and I had to look this up. A wolf is considered part of the dog family,
Yeah.
but that's not who I was referring to.
Oh,
Because it does mention a wolf.
yeah.
It doesn't mention a dog, but
So the Erie Seawolves are one of them.
yes. So
the last one is it's got a dog in the logo.
wearing headwear that is not baseball headwear.
Headwear. What is
Wearing first responder headwear.
Oh, the Peoria Chiefs.
Yes.
Uh,
There you go. And like I said, I was surprised that there were only 5
Yeah.
because now if maybe what I should have done just for the purpose of further conversation regarding the stumper is, looked in the independent ranks as well. But again, your
yeah.
head
It's funny though, because those are the ones that were popping into my head, right? Like the muck dogs, and maybe because they have dogs in the name, right? Like another one that was like very much front and center in my head was the Lincoln Salt Dogs, just down the road from us here in Fort Collins, Colorado.
Yeah, there was also off the top of my head, there were the River City Rascals. That's a team that no longer plays. That featured a bull terrier,
Yeah.
the type of dog that I had never seen until I saw the movie Patton, starring George C. Scott, where he played General George S. Patton, I think was his middle initial, and he had I remember seeing that movie and go, that's a really strange looking dog. And then it became famous with Spuds McKenzie. Do you remember Spuds McKenzie?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
It's actually funny. The little bit of Paul's personal history here is the River City Rascals. Long before we ever started dating, Ranger Amy and I went to a River City Rascals game. I want to say in like 2012.
And I know somebody personally who played for the River City Rascals. But anyway, I digress. So there you have it. I'm sorry that you did not start another winning streak.
Let me ask you if this one would have counted. See, now they're just coming fast and furious, Dan. What about the Amarillo Sod Poodles, who are not technically named for dogs, but prairie dogs?
Well, that would have meant that the Portland Sea Dogs would have to.
True. And if we had expanded it to the independent leagues, would the Chicago Dogs have counted?
No, that again, that's a very valid question.
Yeah,
but that complicates things. And
it does.
And so,
what about? I wonder if foxes are part of the dog family. Would the Fort Collins Foxes have counted?
I looked that up. and it's related to a dog, but it is not. I don't even understand. Maybe it's the same genus, but not the same family.
Another brand, Dan, that I was trying to conjure, I could picture it, but I couldn't come up with the name, is the New England Knockouts, who have the dog with the boxing gloves.
Yes.
Obviously, again, independent, but.
Yeah. Now you have me want, I've got work I need to do when we're done doing this, but now I want to further dive into the deep dive I already did into this, and see how many independent ones we can come up with. Because I bet you the number, even though this was a lower number, the 5 that are in affiliated baseball, I bet you if you go through the independent ranks, that number can get to a somewhat more substantial number.
For some reason, this structure of question is the most difficult for me. Like think of all the dog teams you can think of. That is the most difficult structure of Studio Simon Stumper for me to do on the spot. So I got to get better at that kind of thinking if I'm gonna get a new streak going. Obviously, my new hot streak is not started yet.
I just did a similar question 2 out of the last 3 stumpers with you, and maybe I need to not do that anymore. So
we got Stumper Palooza coming up here soon, so we're gonna there's a lot that we can do, but you'll learn more about Stumper Palooza in the near future. In the meantime, Dan, thank you as always. This is a lot of fun. Little peek at how they make the sausage here, how we make the sausage here. We recorded several of these this morning. It was fun to catch back up with you after our your busy time in your schedule and my time away from my recording studio here. Thank you as always, and look forward to more recordings, more Studio Simon Stumpers to come.
Well, now you've done it, Paul. The cat's out of the bag. They know the method to our madness. And
people are going to know.
So the charade is over. We don't record these necessarily every week. We lump record. So, Paul, thank you for having me. It's fun doing these. It's fun hearing you try to suss them out. And it's even more fun when you get it correct, hopefully next week. And I'll see you then.
All right, Dan. Thanks. See ya.